So on July 31st, 2026, a paper was presented at the International Conference on Machine Learning that, while it essentially told the entire tech industry it had been building the future on a mathematical impossibility.
Yeah, a massive wake-up call.
Right. So today, we are taking a deep dive into a specific, highly disruptive report from a recent AI News Digest covering that exact paper.
Hmm.
And we're doing this because, for anyone who uses large language models, which at this point is basically all of us, whether we realize it or not, this completely rewrites the rules of engagement.
It really does.
We are looking at a fundamental structural flaw in the very architecture of LLMs.
It is a profound shift in how we understand our relationship with this technology. I mean, this isn't one of those routine security bulletins where a company announces a vulnerability
And just pushes out a software patch to fix it overnight.
Exactly. The findings presented at ICML, they challenge the core premise of AI security, frankly, because they suggest that securing these models in the traditional sense is inherently impossible.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the distinction between a software bug and an architectural flaw is really the entire crux of the issue here.
Yeah, that distinction is everything.
Like, if my operating system has a bug, a developer wrote a bad line of code, a hacker finds it, the developer rewrites the code, and my computer updates while I'm sleeping.
Right, the deterministic model.
Exactly. But the researchers here are stating that LLMs have a deep underlying vulnerability embedded in their very design.
Hmm.
And to conceptualize this, as I was reading the source material, I kept thinking about building a house, like building this spectacular high-tech house on a foundation made of porous sponge.
Oh, I like that. That's a highly accurate way to frame it.
Right. Like, you can paint the walls, you can install the most advanced smart locks on the doors, but you can't just patch a foundation that is fundamentally permeable by design. The
Yeah.
water is getting in.
What's fascinating here is why that architectural flaw is so much more difficult to handle than a standard coding error. It comes down to how AI architecture actually dictates how the model learns and processes information.
So it's baked into its core functioning?
Yes, exactly. When you input a prompt, the model isn't retrieving a pre-written answer from some neat little database. It's mathematically calculating the probability of the next word based on concepts in this massive multidimensional space.
Right. It's probabilistic, not deterministic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the vulnerability the ICML paper identifies stems from the fact that human language is, well, infinitely complex. It's
Oh.
ambiguous.
Right.
Because the model has to remain flexible enough to understand nuance and slang and metaphor, its attack surface is effectively infinite.
So the very mechanism that makes the LLM useful, its ability to fluidly map concepts, is the exact mechanism that makes it susceptible to attacks.
Precisely. In a traditional system, you can define the boundaries of what is acceptable. But in an LLM, the boundaries are fluid. Bad actors can use clever phrasing to just bypass the model's safety training.
Which brings us to the most unsettling conclusion of the AI News Digest report.
Yeah, this is the heavy part.
The researchers assert that because this flaw is architectural, it might be unfixable. The digest says that certain vulnerabilities can never be entirely eliminated, and LLMs can, quote, never be fully secured against all types of hacks.
Never is a massive word to use in computer science.
It really is. And I actually have to push back on this absolute claim. Wait, so if it can never be fully secured, is this like saying we should stop driving cars because accidents are impossible to eliminate entirely? Or is this a completely different existential level of risk for our data?
This raises an important question, and it really strikes at the heart of why traditional cybersecurity paradigms are failing us here.
How so?
Well, traditionally, developers believe a system can eventually be patched to safety. That is the whole paradigm of eventual perfection. But this research dictates that working with LLMs means permanently living with an open back door.
So it's not like a car accident where it's a fluke. The road itself is fundamentally designed to cause crashes.
That's a good way to put it. You mentioned reinforcement learning and model alignment earlier.
Yeah, just training the model to be safe.
Right, that is the standard industry response. We just train the model to recognize malicious prompts and refuse them. But language is so flexible that an attacker can always find a new, mathematically distinct path to trick the system.
So the defenders have to block every possible combination of words infinitely.
Exactly. Well, the attacker only needs to find one tiny gap in the fence. And if you make that fence too thick, the model loses its utility. It stops answering normal questions.
Wow. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, because we need to bridge this from abstract computer science to the real-world stakes for, well, you, the listener.
Absolutely.
The digest notes that LLMs are increasingly integrated into various applications. They specifically mention virtual assistants and complex data analysis tools.
Mhm.
And it says these vulnerabilities pose direct risks to individual privacy, as well as massive risks to broader system integrity. But let me challenge this for a second.
Go for it.
Look, I use AI to draft emails and summarize notes, not to launch rockets. Does the average user actually need to worry about their individual privacy here? Or is system integrity just a headache for big tech corporations?
It is incredibly tempting to categorize this as just an enterprise problem. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the wall between system integrity and individual privacy completely vanishes
Really?
because virtual assistants and data tools are interconnected now. A compromise in system integrity eventually trickles down to individual privacy. A flaw in the system means a flaw in how everyone's personal data is handled.
Okay, so because these assistants have access to my calendar and my inbox?
Yes, exactly. We use techniques that allow the LLM to actively go out and fetch your private data.
Right.
Now consider the architectural flaw. Let's say a bad actor sends you an email. You don't even open it. It just sits in your inbox.
Okay, sounds harmless enough.
But that email contains a string of text mathematically designed to hijack the LLM. When your virtual assistant scans your inbox to summarize your unread messages, it ingests that malicious text.
Oh, wow.
Because the model cannot distinguish between your instructions and the instructions hidden in the data it's analyzing, the malicious prompt can just take over.
Wait, really? So the hacker doesn't need to break into my computer? They just need to put a toxic piece of data somewhere my AI assistant is going to look.
That is exactly how an unfixable flaw in system integrity becomes your personal privacy nightmare. The malicious prompt could silently instruct your assistant to forward your private documents to an external server.
That is a staggering reality check. You are giving the keys to your digital life to something that is brilliant, but highly susceptible to being conned.
Exactly. And that's why the researchers are raising the alarm. It's not just about the AI giving a wrong answer. It's about the AI having the authority to execute functions across our private lives while running on a vulnerable engine.
It really feels like we are at a massive crossroads here. The source material notes this is a pressing challenge for both developers and users alike, and everyone has to balance the benefits of these tools with the risks.
It is the great balancing act of our time.
So what does this all mean? Are developers just supposed to accept they are building on a flawed foundation and hope for the best? How do you balance something that is simultaneously incredibly powerful and inherently compromised?
It requires a total paradigm shift. Look, knowledge is most valuable when it's applied. The takeaway from the ICML paper isn't panic. It's a recalibration of trust. Developers have to stop trying to fix the unfixable core.
If they can't fix the core, what do they do?
They have to build guardrails around the AI. If you know the engine might suddenly decide to accelerate maliciously, you don't keep tinkering with the engine. You install incredibly strong, independent brakes.
Right. So you rely on external, strictly coded systems to babysit the AI.
Exactly. Smaller, tightly controlled software that monitors everything going in and out. If the LLM generates a command to forward an email to a weird server, the independent guardrail system blocks it.
Okay, so that's the developer side. But what about the users? What about everyone listening right now?
For users, there's a critical need for ongoing research and constant vigilance. You have to remain vigilant about what data you feed into these powerful tools. Treat the AI as an incredibly capable intern who is notoriously bad at keeping secrets.
So we can give this intern complex tasks, but we don't hand them the master list of our company's passwords.
Precisely. You do not let them blindly execute financial transfers without checking their work. It is about balancing the utility of the tool with a clear-eyed understanding of its limits.
Wow. Well, just to recap this incredible journey, we went from a shocking paper at a machine learning conference straight to the realization that our everyday AI tools have permanent, unfixable vulnerabilities.
It's a lot to process.
It really is. And I want to thank you, the listener, for joining this deep dive, taking the time to truly understand the tech you use every single day. That is how you stay empowered.
Absolutely. And before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought that really builds on this research.
Oh, I'm ready. Let's hear it.
If we most accept that LLMs are permanently vulnerable to certain attacks due to their very architecture, will we eventually see a schism in the tech world?
A schism, like a split.
Yes. Will we have to abandon LLMs entirely for highly sensitive fields like global finance and national security? We might essentially create two internets.
Two internets.
One that is AI-powered, incredibly fast, but inherently risky, and a second infrastructure that is old school, strictly limited, but truly secure. When the time comes, which network will you trust with your most critical data?
Now, that is a question that will absolutely stick with me. Thank you for that framing. And to you listening, keep asking the hard questions, stay curious, and navigate this new landscape safely. Until the next deep dive, take care.